This is season 7, episode 19, number 284 of the Decoded podcast. Last week, if I could strangle the internet, I would. Season 7, episode 18, number 283, something happened with my internet. And it's a mystery. I'm hardwired here. I'm not joking around with the Decoded podcast. I'm hardwired. And my desktop is a beast. So everything I'm using here is like creme de la creme. And the internet just stopped working. Now, I believe there's a conspiracy. This is how I know that there's a conspiracy. Somebody's been listening to us. Somebody's been listening to me. And I've narrowed down who this person must be who works for the internet or Big Brother. It's got to be somebody that I played hockey with when I was between 13 and 15. And the reason why I know that is because I reviewed the tape, which I rarely do.
You don't.
Reviewed the tape.
We don't. We don't go back. We don't go back.
We don't go back. We just go forward, baby.
That's it. Tally ho.
So, there's a place in Hamilton called Tally Ho that makes the best roast beef sandwiches. You know about this, right? We've talked about this?
Yep.
Okay, Tally Ho. Anyway, I was talking about the hockey picture, and right when I said, this is what I said, I quote, I could pick out each guy and tell you a story about them. That's when the internet cut out. And I'm like, guess what? One of those guys is working for Big Brother and shut us down last week. Because they're like, oh, no, we can't have Roland telling any kind of stories about any of those guys. Somebody's listening to us. Somebody's listening to us, not for the right reasons. They're listening.
Well, if they are, welcome to the Decoded podcast.
Well, they've been here since episode 1. They probably heard when you and I were texting about starting Decoded podcast. They were listening.
Only took us 284 episodes to piss them off.
283 to piss them off.
283 to piss them off. They're like, that's it. I've had it. Hit the button.
Can't have Roland talking about the hockey team. Shut her down.
All right.
But I was sad because I like to announce at the end what I like to announce at the end. This was season 7, episode 18, number 283, and they took that away.
Say it in the past tense now. That was last week. That way you could put it in there.
2 weeks ago, it was season 7, episode 18, number 283. They robbed us. So now I'm pissed. So if I come across any of those guys on socials or whatever, I'm going to hammer them. We'll see how it goes.
Speaking of socials, how's Twitter going? You still there?
I am still there. Nobody pays attention to me, and that's okay because there is nothing better for me. I've learned something about myself.
Okay.
There is nothing better for me than doing what I do and put in the work to build me up.
Yep.
And nobody's around. Like, that's okay with me because you know this. Maybe some of our listeners know this, our loyal listeners. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to build me. And I'm trying to become better every day. And if you're in my head, you'd know about all the nonsense that's there about that. What keeps me from being a better version of me. When I put out a tweet and I tag it mental health, mental wellness, and it's about putting in the work or the consistency and effort that's required to be successful. When I tweet those things, what that means is that I spent time reading something else. I spent time reflecting on it, and then I spent time writing something to push out. So at the end of the day, I don't have much traction. It's like the same people who like it or might interact with it. But I'm not really doing it for them. Like I do it because it helps me. And if it can help me, it can help someone else. And that's awesome. But I'm not sitting here crying every night. Oh, nobody's retweeting my stuff. Nobody's responding. I don't care. I'm growing. I'm getting better every day. Hopefully the people around me are getting better every day. I'm a collector. I look back, and when you look at my tweets, you see that I believe I'm providing some kind of value that lives
Mhm.
there. So I'm sorry, you asked me a simple question and I go off with a complicated response. I'm still there. I'm still checking things out. I'm still gathering good stuff and I'm still pushing out things that I like and I feel are important. And it's okay if nobody wants to chill with me. For me, bro, once I get over that I want people to work with me and stuff, I'm good to go, man. I'm good. It's like the Decoded podcast, 284 episodes.
Mm.
We're good, I think. Like, we don't need 8,000 people checking us out. We don't.
Yeah.
I mean, we're still doing this. It works for us. Um, the one fantastic thing is the growth that's come from both of us. Like when you look back and if we were to review the tapes and listen in about all our journeys in our professional lives, our personal lives, like you and I would argue that we right now, compared to where we were 284 episodes ago, we are better people, we are better partners, we are better fathers, we are better teachers.
Mhm.
I would argue that. Um, Rochelle's here, and Rochelle
Hey,
says she
Michelle.
appreciates the daily wellness tweets, just don't always have time to comment. Thank you for telling me that you see them, you appreciate them. You're living your life. You don't have time to comment. You don't have time to comment. I'm not holding that against you. I'm just like, it's all good. I'm doing my thing. And I will do it until I don't want to do it anymore. There have been
Mhm.
I've been pretty consistent every day, but there have been days where I wake up and I'm like, yeah, I got nothing today. I don't have anything I need to push out today. I don't feel bad about it. It goes back to what you and I, when we talk about the bag of chips or the donut. If I want a friggin' donut, I'm gonna go get one. I'm gonna eat it. I'm gonna enjoy it, and then I'm gonna move on with my life. It doesn't mean that like all my exercising's over, all the good eating habits are over. I felt like
Mhm.
having a donut, so I had one. It's the same thing. I wake up some mornings pumped as I'm doing my reading. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna push this out today. I feel good. Other days it's like I do some reading and I'm like, do I have anything to push out? No, nothing's coming to me. So if, I'm not going to spend 15 minutes trying to create something if I'm not feeling it just to say I did it.
Mhm.
Nah, I'm past that. That doesn't work for me. So I try not to do it.
I like there's a complication in this a little bit, and not that I'm disputing your decision making, but there's an algorithmic um factor that, because as you're saying this about putting the good stuff out, at some like at some how do I do this? So there's a kind of, it's almost like a perpetual motion machine. And what can happen with social media is that the more you pursue a specific topic, the more that topic floods your feed. And it's like the fact that your brain loves patterns, the algorithm likes to feed you patterns. So it'll give you what it thinks you need based on what you think you want to see and you've put into the algorithm. So there's like this, it reminds me, someone, I saw a post the other day on Facebook about a magnetic engine. That's the best way for it to describe it. And all it takes is an initial crank to sort of get these two pistons moving. And it's a double-sided piston that, as the piston goes one way, there's two magnets that come in close proximity, but they're reversed, so they repel each other. So it pushes the piston back this way. And then on the other side, there's there's two reverse magnets, so it pushes it back. And that motion only takes an initial crank to move the two magnets out of their like dead zone, because there's a narrow dead zone that if it just stays in the center, it's not being repelled on either side. So the piston just stays stationary. That stationary piston, that engine, is like any person before they start getting onto social media. And social media is a whole different ball game as far as digital footprint, right? Like when we were, I think when we were talking about digital footprint back in the day, I think we were most taught more talking about what websites are you going to and what emails are you sending. I don't even know if digital footprint works anymore with that discussion of like how deeply we go into social media. It's something entirely different. Like because it's like your footprints go down. It's because there was something very logical sounding about talking about digital footprint. You take a step, you create a thing, and it's a followable path. Like you sort of know exactly. I feel like right now, footprint is a little bit like stepping in moving water, and it just kind of it flows around you and it disappears and it goes somewhere else. You can't even look back and say, "Oh wait, I just stepped there a second. Where did that step go?" Or you're looking down at the step and it says it looks like a duck's foot. Or you look down at the step and the foot in the snow or the dirt is like 12 feet deep. You're like, how did I make that? And that has to do with all the different kind of permutations that we do with our personas online. Like you don't even know if you're leaving a footprint that you would recognize. It reminds me a little bit like when my kids in my classroom, sometimes they love writing, but they can't read their own writing because part of their identity is they have a challenge with reading, but they can write. It's a fascinating thing. So when I come back to Utah, the question around, the posts, that magnetic piston, I figure you wake up and it's already in motion. Da, 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 so you going on your social media, it made me wonder as you were talking about this, like, do you ever wake up and say, today I'm going to post some good stuff online? Or or is the machine, and that's one version of that machine, you wake up ready to go, or is it you go into your social media and you just start walking? But because there's your engine and the algorithmic engine, that algorithmic engine is already populating that landscape for you. So it's inevitable you're going to come across something good. I guess if I bring it down to how much agency do you feel that you have in posting some of this good stuff? And I'm not looking for you to sort of like crash any of our listeners' sort of boats here by saying, yeah, I don't even think about it anymore. I just post the first thing that I see on my feed because I know it's good stuff. Are you still discerning?
You asked a lot of good questions. So I have to say, I I probably started off with, I'm gonna go post something awesome on Twitter.
Yeah.
And I think that this is the beauty of building positive habits and being consistent. It started that way. It's not like that anymore.
Mm,
It's like it's part of a routine. I wake up in the morning and I have a routine. I follow my routine, and part of my routine involves some like quick and dirty reading of stuff on the net and looking at graphics and thinking about them. That's the other thing too. I really enjoy spending time looking at visuals and then looking at how I interpret them. What do I get from them?
mm,
What do they activate in my mind for me? What kind of connections do I make? It's really kind of funny because as I say that to you, I sound exactly like a grade 2 and 3 teacher. And I take it to heart, all that stuff that I would talk to my students about, making connections and thinking about, what does this mean to you? What visualizations come to mind when you see something like this? What words come to your mind? It's part of my routine to engage in that type of like reflection and connection making in the morning. And then part of that, the next part of that is how can I package this in my own little brain that I can then push out on Twitter? Because that's where I seem to do it the most.
mhm,
That's where I do it totally where I do it. So it started with, this is what I want to do every day. It's not like that anymore because there are some days where, as I said, I wake up, I follow my routine. And then when it gets to the Twitter part, I'm like, yeah, this doesn't feel right. This feels like it doesn't feel right. Doesn't feel good. I don't really have anything I want to say to everybody else. If anybody else would look at it, I don't have anything to say. That's where it is now. It's sometimes, like, recently I wondered, why am I even doing this? I had one of those mornings where it's just like, why am I even doing this? I'm scrolling through Twitter and I'm like, I'm seeing great stuff from other people, which is awesome because I'm in a place right now where my feed is it's stuff that is working for me. And yeah, recently I one day it was like I felt a pressure and I was like, no, that's not cool because I'm not I that's not why I'm doing this. I don't do this because of pressure. I do this because it helps me. And it's relatively positive. Like I don't think the things I'm posting are bad. Right? It's not like working against me, and I'm certainly not scrolling wishing I was somebody else. I'm happy to be who I am. So that's good too. Yeah, man, that's what's happening on Twitter. I want to hear about. I'd love to shift gears a little bit, and I want to hear from you with
Mm.
your work on Threads because
Mm.
I don't go there a lot. I try to go there at least once a day,
Yeah.
and I try to see what you're posting up because
Mhm.
I like what you've done. Like to me now on Threads, you're the guy that posts up the things you see or hear that are interesting to you that for other people might be weird because they don't know what the context is, but I think that's part of your genius is that to me I'm like, oh yeah, this is Clough, this is how he rolls. So I read what you post and then I'm
Mhm.
like I think about it and I keep going. um when I read something from you that inspires me, I usually post something quick and dirty. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about that place. Or I definitely put more thought and energy into my tweets than I do into my threads. So I want to hear from you about threads and kind of your process and how it's helping you.
Mhm. Um, so it's for me on Threads. I I primarily I primarily use Threads to develop my writing skills. So it's a little bit of a it's just a laboratory for me to do with that. So one of the experiments that I have going on right now is thought fuel. So and this is just when I post that kind of stuff up, I put it all in caps. Um, I'll put two emojis, a brain and a flame, and I'll just post it and I'll just leave it there. It's I mean, for some people they've come back and they've messaged me and said these are good prompts. Like I do my writing based on these weird little like screams that the all caps stuff that you're dropping on threads. I'm like, cool. If that's what it is too, that's fantastic. For me, it's all found text. So I might be listening to a podcast, I might read something, but it's all the words that are there. 90% of them, it's exactly as I heard it or saw it, and I'm just extracting and dropping it there. So there's a little bit of a nostalgia memento thing here. I go back through my feed and I look at all those different things. I'm like, oh yeah, yeah. And I kind of use a little bit for inspiration. Um, Sometimes some of the pieces have made it into my own writing pieces for poetry. So laboratory, writing space. I follow mostly writers on there, mostly poets. Um, Visual artists, I may find them on threads, but I move them over to Insta. So my Insta feed is kind of more for the visual creativity, some video creativity. Um, and for me, Insta is a more satisfying social network, just as far as connecting with people there. I don't know if I necessarily have enjoyed my conversations on threads. I do I stay, so there's an element of enjoyment. But as far as craving the conversation, I think I just find myself, if I think about my happy place, it would be more on Insta. The other stuff I've done on there, little experiments. I went through a whole phase of Dear Algo, where I was kind of mocking, playing on some people that are constantly putting these listicles up of what they want the algorithm to do. And I mean, part of it, there's an element that works, right? The more you post of a certain thing or like a certain thing, the algo goes, oh, hey, pattern, we're going to feed you more of this stuff. My take on that was I was taking, I thought of it like I was doing therapy sessions for the algorithm. Like I was kind of flipping it and saying, poor algorithm, just not able to kind of get it right. So a lot of my posts on the Dear Algo, and I think, I don't know, I might have done about maybe 20 of them and then I kind of walked away from it. What I would do is I would take posts, two posts on my feed and screen cap and kind of like abstract out of it. So, somebody, random person here posts something about um, really trying, I'm craving French fries. And then there's a post right under it that would be something like, worst day of my life. And then I would sort of put, dear, I'll go, I get it. Trying to figure out, what that rumbling in your stomach can be really stressful. I hope you have I hope you have a fantastic foodie day. And I'll just drop it. So that was a little bit of like an exercise in synthesis and being a little bit cheeky. And my other one that I play with on there is I just called it Gurundities. And a Gurund is where you can use a noun as a verb, basically. So some of those posts on there are kind of comical. I have to look back and see. I haven't actually looked at those ones in a while. Again, it's all just exercises in writing. And what I try to do, and I find what I'm doing more often is not you, because you noticed this in the you noticed in the past, and you actually mentioned on here too. I don't frame what I do on there. I so rarely start with a discussion. I start with a share. Like I just drop it there. There you go. And then and part of it is that's the joy. I found a thing that I like to look at. I found a thing that sort of fascinates me. I found a thing that like, oh, that's kind of cool. And I capture it. I Pokemon the shit out of that and just say, there we go. Post it up. There's my Pokeball. I've captured it. The only difference is my Pokeball is networked. So people can see my catalog of things that fascinate me. But yeah, I don't frame it. I try not to decide for I try not to do things that make it more difficult for the viewer to decide what they're I don't want anyone looking at my stuff and trying to figure out what's going on with me. I want my posts to create dissonance in the viewer. So they look at it and they spend more time thinking, what do I think about this, as opposed to what the hell was Clough thinking? But I have had people come directly at that, even writers within threads. Kiki Poetry was one of the first people. They put up some really good poems, and they host some poetry readings on Sundays. And they've read some of my pieces on their Instagram live stuff. It's been nice to hear those pieces out loud. But they were one of the first people asking me directly, like, what's up with this all caps posting? And I kind of gave an abbreviated version of what I just told you. But again, it's a laboratory. And I enjoy having another scrapbook to scribble in. I don't know how long I'll stay there. I do intend, as far as a practice goes, though, I do wake up with the intention of using the tool to write. So it is a part of my practice each day to try and put something into threads as a matter of practice, not a matter of capacity building. It's practice, as in, how can I learn to write more and write more better, even using a tool like this? So my 1.0 version of threads was my Padlet for fossils, the fossil stuff, and my other one with the inspiring things. I have another one where it was just a bunch of random kind of statements that I put on a Padlet, and I would share that with people all the time. Like, my kids need writing prompts. I'm like, here, have a look at this. And I actually have a prompts Padlet. I think I only have two. I only have the two. I think what I'm eventually going to do is just pull that Padlet and just post everything from there as the thought fuel onto the threads, and just close down the Padlet, because I'm not using Padlet anymore. I'm not back there in the day. And really, if it's, I'll say it, if it's about me growing, the Padlet doesn't help me grow. It doesn't, not anymore. That's the short long of that, buddy. Thanks for the question.
Yeah, no problem. I just enjoy now. I know that I've asked you before too. I'm like, you just post stuff up, but you don't say anything on Insta or whatever. I Now I know I know your style, your approach, your reasoning. I just enjoy what you post.
Thanks, man.
I just know that's how you roll, so I get it. Welcome to Rochelle and Gary. With us,
Welcome,
Gary
welcome.
said a while ago he likes the authenticity. 2 thumbs up. I'm not always authentic, but when I am, I am. And then Gary just said, "Do algorithms frustrate you sometimes as you hope to explore and find a new and unexpected interest or topic?
Nope.
Sometimes I want to be captivated by something I didn't expect to capture my attention."
Hmm. I don't have any frustration at all with algos. I actually feel nothing at all. I'll call it. I actually don't. I feel nothing at all for algos. It's kind of like it's like, are you frustrated with air, Gary? Are you frustrated? You know what I mean? Like it's just kind of like it is the. I look at algos and social media as the air we breathe. And I get the arguments and the counter arguments to, yeah, but this is what it's putting up in front of me. Like I do get those. I do get that. But for me, no, I don't. I really don't. I in some ways think of algos as playthings because they are computer coding that we do have some access to. We do have some. So, you know, I'm going to play. I'm going to play as best I can.
I like that. Um, I've spent some time trying to learn more about the algos. Um, there are people who dedicate a lot of their time to that, and then they
Mhm.
provide information to people like me who are interested but not enough to give it a ton of time. And I've experimented, I've tried different stuff. I've never really even with the stuff I've read about and been told this is how it's operating, so do these things. I'm like, yeah, no thanks. Like, no thanks. I'm just not gonna do it. I'm gonna do it my way. And I might, every now and again, it clicks in my head. Oh, remember, do this. So when I can add those little bits and pieces to my fluency, it's good. But big picture, I'm not spending hours sitting here going through the code and figuring out the different ways to make the algorithm on Twitter pay attention to me. I already know I already know I'm behind the eight ball because I don't pay to have the blue check mark. So I'm
Mhm.
already disadvantaged according to everything I'm reading about the algorithm and who it prioritizes, what it prioritizes. I'm already screwed in if you want to look at it that way. So I'm like, nah. I thought about paying for it, but then I thought,
I remember you talking about that.
yeah, I thought about paying for it, but I've kind of stepped away from the amount of stuff I'm pushing out there. So now it's like I'd be paying whatever a year, and I'm not even leveraging it the way that I could. So yeah, I don't spend a lot of time anymore really digging into it in a serious way. If I come across something, or it's funny, usually that stuff comes out when somebody says to me, this is the best. Somebody says, "Roland, you seem to be successful with Twitter. Tell me, how do I grow my Twitter account?" And
Dude,
I
it feels like the PD sessions you were giving a decade ago.
and I laugh because they don't want to hear the real answer. They want something quick and dirty. It's like there is no quick and dirty. It's like re-engagement. What? Okay, here's my situation. How do I get this kid back? And I've told you this where I've talked to people and I've told them, and then they're like, "Oh, we
Mm.
don't want to do any of that." Well, that's what I've seen success with.
Mhm.
So it's just like, no,
That's my story.
you don't want to do you don't want to do it.
Yeah.
Um, it reminds me in a weird way when you see somebody. This is what the connection I make when I see a friend that I haven't seen in years and they've lost a ton of weight. Everybody's like, "What did you do? How'd you do it?" And they're
Mhm.
expecting like a magic bullet. And then the response is never magic bullet. It's always, "Oh, you know what? I woke up one morning and I was really tired of like my pants not fitting, or I felt like garbage from the meal I ate last night. So I just started to eat better and I started to exercise more. And I haven't seen you in a year and
Oh.
a half. So here I am a year and a half later. I'm looking better, I'm feeling better, and you're looking at me saying, how did you do it? There's no silver bullet. You got to make a decision to change and to move in a certain direction, and then you go with it and you see what happens. It's the same with Twitter, it's the same with tech integration, it's the same with re-engagement. It's like my life mantra, and my kids will tell you that. Both of my kids will tell you, don't ask dad how to improve at something, because he's going to hit you over the head with, it's going to take a lot of work and sacrifice. So do you really want to improve, or are you just upset at the moment because of something, and all your emotions are doing the talking? But when it comes time to the logical, you're like, yeah, I'm not spending time with that. So the
I'd
other
be
day,
curious.
go, go.
I'd be. I just to say, I'd be curious to hear if Gary, are you frustrated by the algo? Just curious. Yeah, I'm always like what's the like if Gary's just kind of being speculative with you because of your like is Gary doing to you right now what you just said others do, that they sort of see you as an individual that maybe has some areas of strength there, so asking you as like a specialist in that space, are you frustrated? Or if Gary, or I guess it could be both, if they're frustrated as well um by the algo.
I don't get that vibe from Gary, probably because I know Gary a little bit, and Gary
Mm-hmm.
doesn't strike me as like a. There are some people you come across who are always looking for the cheat code. Like, you're like, hey, how are you? Hey, Roland, let me talk to you about the cheat code. Um, Gary, Gary's not been like that with me, so I don't get that vibe from Gary. I always laugh
Right.
now when I see the cheat code people. I just laugh.
Left,
I'm
left,
like,
right, up, down, X,
yeah,
Y.
tell me, Roland, what's the cheat code? And I'm like, it's funny because you work on something for such a long time, and they don't want to hear about that. They want the cheat code. Now that you have all this fluency, Roland, what's the cheat code? Like, there is no cheat code.
Mm-hmm.
And if there is, it's because I've done the work, and so I know how to leverage things, because I'm the architect of it. So I can tell you where the pressure points are, and where the weak points are, and where the strong points are, and where I can cheat and where I can't cheat. But that's me knowing me and a process. Um, Gary and Rochelle don't strike me as well. They've never done that to me. They've never done the cheat code thing, and they're
We all
both.
do it though. I'll
Oh,
just say
I'm
we,
not
yeah,
saying, yeah,
yeah,
but there
yeah.
are some people that every time I see them, they're not interested in talking real talk. They're interested
Gotcha,
in cheat
gotcha.
code talk. So, yeah, in my interactions with people like Gary and Rochelle, they dig deep, right? They want to think critically. Of
Well,
course, they want to
look
know.
at what they're doing on Saturdays.
Well, decoded, baby. Yeah.
I've been decoded.
But yeah, there are some people, you and I both know them. We're connected with some of them through social media, where all they want is cheat code. They have no they have no like resume of building anything, just jumping one from one thing to another, looking for code and looking for popularity, but they've not
Clout.
really yeah, but they've done nothing to gain any of that.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
I recently got an email from a teacher in my district who I don't know,
Mhm. Okay.
saying, "Hey Roland, I follow you on Twitter. I'm looking for a tool that can do this, this, and this. Can you help?" And I'm not saying this in a disrespectful way. I responded right away and said, "Yeah, this is what you're looking for. Have a good one." Like, I was able to help in that case.
Very kind.
Well, sometimes I can be kind. I follow you on Twitter, Roland. Can you please tell me? Awesome. Yeah, sure I can. Today I can. Gary says he likes hearing different thoughts. He's not frustrated. Gary, what kind of thoughts are you hearing these days? It sounds so like we should be charging Gary for today's session. Our
It's awesome.
Patreon. Do we have a Patreon?
Or we should start up the other one. What's it? Buy me a coffee.
Oh,
Buy me
right.
a coffee. Buy me a coffee feels so much more accessible, right? Just buy me a coffee. Buy us a
Actually,
coffee.
can we
Buy me an
change?
Olipop.
Yeah, I was going to say, can you buy me a prebiotic botanicals plant fiber drink? Can
That's
we
right.
change it to that instead of buy me a coffee? We
My
both drink
God,
coffee, so
having that after coffee after our podcast, you're gonna shit your pants.
You know, that's the thing. My system's
You're
fine,
like
bro. I'm not.
you don't need the pre and your greens. You're going from water to greens to a coffee to Olipop, and your system's just like your whole body's like, what do you want me to do? What do you want me to do? It's
Um,
like just sitting there with their head like 22 different levers that can be pulled for the next thing. Do you need better gut flora? Do you gonna get up and run a marathon? Podcast?
After our last chat about the greens and the phytoberry, I bought a
Yeah, yeah,
thing of phytoberry.
yeah.
So what I've done now is that's my uh, afternoon evening drink
Okay,
to try to satisfy my want for sweets.
okay.
Now, the really awesome thing about all of this is that, I'm talking like we're talking about all this stuff, right? And in 2 months, somebody will see me and they're like, "Hey, he's still fat." That's the best part because people expect just
That's
because what were you
Roland.
gonna say?
Didn't you find the cheat code? Roland, you didn't
Roland,
find the cheat code.
you're drinking greens, you're drinking your phytoberry, you're talking about balanced meals, but you're fat. Yeah, sometimes, people are fat, people are skinny. Um, I remember this blew my mind. Back in the day when I was a teenager and I lived with my parents, we had a neighbor, and he was Middle Eastern, so like the families talked or whatever. And this dude was tall and skinny, but his friggin' cholesterol was out of control. Like, I remember, it's so neat to remember these things. I was on my bike and my dad went over to this guy's house and they were sitting outside the house. They were smoking and having a coffee and they were chatting. And I was riding my bike and I stopped to say something to my dad. And right before I talked to my dad, the neighbor was telling my dad about his cholesterol. He's like, "Oh my God, it's out of control. The doctors are like, I have blockages. I'm gonna have a heart attack." And I remember I'm looking at the guy, and the guy was like this mini skinny dude. And it didn't click until years later that everybody's got a different body, everybody
Hmm.
operates a certain way. This guy looked healthy to me, but the doctors are like, "You're gonna drop dead in a minute because of your cholesterol." Some people are just built, his cholesterol was out of control all the time. I never saw him eating, he wasn't eating like you know, burgers 24/7 and french fries or whatever. He wasn't eating like that, but his body was just could not control that.
Hmm.
So it's like, yeah, this I don't want to get into this, but I was thinking about a new line of decoded product that has the word fat in it
Hmm.
to kind of I feel like I need to own that word. I need to own the fat because you can be whatever you want to be and you can still eat well and you can still indulge in that donut sometimes. But I believe if you're building positive habits, your body might not change, but you can still think differently and you can still ingest things that, are supposed to help you out. So
Hmm.
yeah, I wanted to throw that out there because I I don't do that anymore, but I would see things where people would talk about all this health stuff and they go running and stuff, and then I see them, I'm like, "You're still fat, though." I don't want to be that guy anymore. I don't want to be in that camp. I do wonder, though. It is interesting. I guess you can run every day if you like, and
Hmm.
you could probably eat well, and your body might not shift. It might remain how it is for a number of different reasons. I want to own that. The fat line from Decoded Podcast. We could start with hats. I'm not sure what they would say yet, but
I have a massive head, so
see, I have a
I'm.
small head with no hair. I
Hmm.
have a small head, and we were joking. We were joking a couple of weeks ago. My young wear it to hockey. He's like, "It's really small, Dad." And I'm like, "I've got a pinhead with no hair. I can fit into like I can use the smallest toques and the smallest hats will fit on my head because I don't have a big head with no hair on it.
That's good.
But you have a big head with no
Just
hair on
yeah,
it." Oh.
with no hair on it. Yeah, yeah. It's a big Polish cranium.
It's like my Middle Eastern nose.
We got what we got.
We got what we got.
We got what we got.
Hey, we're talking about heads and noses. Can I talk about my beard for a second?
Yep, then we're gonna do knees and toes.
Okay.
Heads and noses, knees and toes.
I went to a doctor's appointment a couple of weeks ago.
Okay.
I don't know if I told you this when we were chatting privately, but I think I did tell you. So, um, the receptionist at the doctor's office is like, "Your health card's expired." I'm like, "What?"
Mm-hmm.
She, so I take it out of my wallet, and she's like, "Yeah, it's expired." She goes, "Your driver's license is probably expired too."
Dope.
I was literally like, "What?" So then I look, I'm like, "You're right. How'd you know that?" She goes, "Oh, usually two, they go hand in hand." So as she's talking to me, she's writing down the information I need to go and get a new health card and a driver's license. And I'm like, "Oh, can't I just do it on? I'll just do it online." She goes, "No, no." This was the funny part. She goes, "No, no, Roland, with that beard, you definitely want a new picture. You want to capture that." And then this lady's kind of different. She goes, now she's totally about the beard. She's like, "No, no, with that beard, you want a new picture because you want to capture that." She goes, "Most guys, they don't look good with a long beard, but you look good with a long beard." And I'm like, "Can I have my expired health card
You're
back?"
like,
I can't see that.
what's happening?
It was just funny the way she's like, "No, you must get a picture because you want to record that beard on your ID." I thought that was funny.
Forever's for now.
Yeah, my favorite thing to do, which I might not do, is after I get my passport picture's long beard and now my driver's license and my health card's long beard, I would love to just shave it right off
There we go.
and then
We got
present
something
my
there.
card, and they're like, "Is that you?" I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, that's me. This bearded Roland, that's non-bearded Roland."
I like that. I think I wanted. I'm gonna try and accelerate that a little bit. I'll say
Are you,
I was in a podcast. I'm gonna start saying that just around people, see what they say. They're like, "What'd you do on Saturday?" I was in a podcast with Roland Longbeard. They're like, Longbeard? Yep, Roland Longbeard. I could make
Barbacande.
it make it more distinguished, say Roland the Longbeard, make it sound like we're sort of medieval or something. But I just like that. Roland Longbeard. RLB.
One of the vice principals I met with the other day told me all I needed was some elastics and I could look like Captain Lou Albano. Remember him?
Dude, yeah. Or just, just start getting that body paint and you can go as Kratos from God of War video games on.
Oh, I know what you're talking
Yeah.
about.
Yeah, the white sort of like chalky paint and the red. I think that would play off well your former alter ego, the Hulk Smash.
You know what I told this VP? I'm like, "I'm not comfortable with what you just said to me.
Mhm.
So like this is a total harassment phone call." And he's like, "Go ahead and call. Do you want me to dial the phone number for you?" And I was like, "I got you on this one. You got to watch your mouth, man. You can't talk like that. You can't tell me I resemble a wrestler. And did you say something rude to me about my beard?" And he's just looking at me like, "Take a hike." I was like, "This is fun. I kind of like this. You got to watch what you say when you're in leadership, man."
On that, I want to let me riff off that for a second. So
Riff.
riff. So it's just off the Marvel reference I made. Um, I thought this was it was an awesome moment, just an awesome moment. Uh, there's a student in my class. So I call it the homework line, and I tell the kids every single day, here's the task you have to get through. This is the homework line you have to cross. Let's aim for it. Let's get it done. And this is like an extension. This is like chapter 3 of Protect the Weekend. So the homework line, I get them lit up about this. And then I've told them about their homework line in the other classes, like to make it very clear. Here's the thing you have to get done in order to answer your parents if they ask you, have you finished your homework? So I make it clear. So I talk about that in class. So we get across the homework line, and what that ensures is that we can make it to movie Fridays. And I try and pick a movie for us to watch. Fridays is also assessment day. So I have the kids for 3 periods, literacy, numeracy, and wellness. So we'll take care of micro assessments every single week, which are just, there's like capacity, skills based, mastery based skills in literacy, numeracy, and wellness. And what I'll do is I'll break up the movie. So we'll take care of, in each period, I know that our assessment might take half the period. And then we get to watch part of the movie. And then they go for their integration classes. They come back. We do numeracy. They do lunch. Numeracy. We'll watch the next piece. And so I orchestrate it so we can get through the whole movie on a Friday, but it's broken up through the whole day. It eliminates some of the fidget factor. Sometimes students don't want to sit for a whole movie, even though they say they do. It also just allows for some flexibility if I need to take a little bit longer with an assessment, right? If I take more time during numeracy on the assessment, I can say I'm going to use more of my wellness period so they get the movie, so we close it out. So this week we watched the Avengers. And there was a student in my class that doesn't watch movies very much. They love video games, but they don't watch any movies. And the questions they were asking about Hulk, Thor, Loki, Iron Man, Nick Fury, the machines they used, the Tesseract, they were just all these questions. And I haven't thought about the Avengers I don't think I've watched the first movie since the year it came out. I don't even remember the year that it came out. And one of the other kids in the class said, "Man, you're asking a lot of questions. You're talking too much." And I said flat out to the kid that said that, I'm like, "But this is wonderful. Like, look how curious they are about this. You haven't asked a single question about any of the characters. You're sitting there watching and you're not asking any questions." They're like, "Well," I'm like, "No, like, this is cool when people ask questions about it." And it just struck me. So there was the question asking, and their questions were really good too. Hulk, right? Someone points out Hulk, but it's Bruce Banner. And they're like, so one of the kids like, "Oh, there's Hulk." And the kid's like, "That's not Hulk." And none of the kids answer. But the kid's like, "That's not Hulk. Why would you say that's Hulk? That's not Hulk." It's talking right out in the middle of the movie. And I come up beside the kid. I'm like, "That's Hulk when he's in his human form." He's like, "Human form? Hulk has a human form?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh." There was so much genuine curiosity about backstory and relationship. Who's the boss? Is that bald guy the boss? That bald guy looks like you, Clough. Nick Fury, right? I'm like, well, we both have shaped heads, but we look kind of different. So it was really hilarious. I think it was funny. It was like, what does it take to make a movie that you've seen many times, and I had back in the day? What does it take to make it enjoyable again? I will tell you, just the naivete and innocence of a kid asking questions about something that you think everybody in the room understands, but the kid didn't. "Where's Spider-Man?" I'm like, "Spider-Man's not in this one." "But Spider-Man's a superhero." I'm like, "I know, but Spider-Man's not." And I'm like, "But he's kind of in it later." And they're like, "Can we watch that one? Like, we want to go right out of the Avengers into whatever that." I'm like, "Well, no, we should watch it in order." "Why? I like Spider-Man better." I'm like, "Okay." "Is Wolverine?" "No, Wolverine's not in this one." But then I'm like, "Oh, wait." I'm like, "No, Wolverine's not in this one." You kind of go back through the whole backstory. Wolverine has not made it into this version of the Avengers. "What do you mean this version of Avengers?" I'm like, "Well, okay, in the comic books, Avengers has been different teams. Are we going to get to see those teams?" "No, we're not going to get to see those teams." "Why not?" "Well, because those movies haven't been made yet." "What do you mean?" I'm like, "Okay." It was awesome. It was awesome. It was a chasing squirrels moment. It was like two ADHDers, just like, and then I'm like, "Okay, shh, let's just watch for a second. Who's that?" I'm like, "Okay, that's Black Widow." It was awesome. Oh, it was awesome. It totally reignited my love of that movie, because there was so much in there that, who's the bad guy? Why are they a bad guy? What'd they do? Like Loki? And then it's like, who's the guy? Who's the guy with the flying hammer? I'm like, "That's Thor." "Why is he fighting the other guy?" I'm like, "That's his brother." "He fights his brother?" I'm like, "Yeah." They don't have a good relationship. "Oh yeah, that's like me and my brother." I'm like, "Okay, so you get it." Oh, it was awesome.
It sounds like a primary classroom, actually, with the
Yeah,
questions and stuff. It sounds
yeah.
like what you'd experience in grade 1, 2, or 3.
And I don't know a primary classroom, but I will say that the energy in this class definitely sort of has an elementary kind of bubbling to it, right? So it was awesome.
Are they how is your class this year? Are they an innocent group?
Um, ish, I guess. They're all
Oh,
very much teenagers, but it's
right,
kind of
but
like, you know what, like teenagers just with sort of like every kid has a different set of tools to cope with with the sort of like the impact of becoming a teenager, right? So some of them, physically they're very much the teenager, but some of the social cueing they don't really kind of get what other teenagers get. Others are entirely on point with some of their work, but they don't have the gregariousness to sort of share their work. It's all over the place. The identities are all over the place. And the principal actually, it's funny, a very similar question asked by the principal. The principal, I'm at the very, very end of the hallway. Like I couldn't be any further from the office. Actually, I guess I could be, but at the front of our school is like there's one long hallway and the office is kind of in the middle. Guidance is all the way at the other end of the hallway. And like the hallway in itself's got to be 400 feet long. Like it's quite long. Yeah, easily 400 or 500. Like it's quite long. Anyways, without any turns. Like it's just straight. You can stand at one end and see all the way out the other side of the school, and it's like. But the principal has usually every couple of weeks just kind of like appears in the classroom and kind of comes in, and I notice what he does. He comes in, he does this.
What's he
Like
looking for?
just difference
Oh,
because there's always something like I'm doing stuff in the room, right? Like I'm changing stuff up and making confusion in there so that so we can set the ground for new learning. And I always have that, like something has a tail end and something has a front end, so there might be a finished thing and then part of an unfinished thing that we're starting. Like it's always, process is always a part of the classroom, right? But he asked a very similar question. He walked in, he did it in a far more, let's say, abstract way. So how's it going? He says. And I paused him. I said, I need to know what that means to you. Kind of stop. I said, a lot of people walk in here and ask very similar questions, but it's loaded. I said, so what is it that you would like to know based on what you just said about how it's going? I said, because I could answer that from the kid's perspective. I could answer that from you just doing a check-in. How's your wellness, Clef? You could be asking it because I just got a dog recently. So how about shape it a little bit before I sort of info dump you? And I was able to narrow it. And he said, that was good. I said, that was cool. He goes, you do that with the students? I'm like, all the time, all the time. Try to narrow their question for them so they can sort of like, we can actually know what we're talking about. So, yeah. So my classroom is good. The kids are still rocking their energy. Yes, probably elementary. If you were to look at my room, I have all these structures of an elementary classroom in there. Labeled bins, labeled areas, label. So, but it's good. Yeah.
I'm happy to hear that it's good, and
Mhm.
I love that you're rocking some of the I don't know what to call it. Some of the things that you would normally see in a primary classroom.
Well, the perennial tools, right? Like,
100%. They
yeah, yeah.
start them early because, like you said, they're ways of operating and tools that build kids and anchor them for growth and success. So why not stop? And I remember when I moved from primary to junior, one of my mentors said to me, "Don't don't stop being a primary teacher." He's like, "This is a mistake I've seen as an administrator when people move from lower division to higher division. They think they need to be something else." He's like, "Don't." So if your instincts tell you that you're going to do a read aloud with your students, your grade 5 students, and you're going to sit on the carpet with them, don't not do that because you're a grade 5 teacher. And don't, and he's like, carpet. If you still want a carpet and you want to operate that way, then do it. Don't not do it because you think that's not how they operate in grade 5. Or yeah. And I remember
They'll
thinking,
let you know. I've
no,
learned they'll
100%. Yeah.
yeah, that's the way that I'm kind of rocking it. They let me know when if I'm not providing, they're either going to do it by words or I'm going to see it by behavior that I'm the one that's actually capping them too young. And I appreciate it when they do that.
Now I'll tell you, when I taught grade 4 and 5, and I still did read alouds, and I still, would sit on the carpet with them, and I would have them come and sit on the carpet, and I had a carpet. They enjoyed it. Like you know, there's there are always going to be students that don't want that. They don't want to sit on the carpet. They don't want to be in one place, for a long period of time. And all that I would try to negotiate with them. I never forced anybody, but at the same time, I could see that many of them found a safety and security with that because it brought back it made they made connections to good thoughts and feelings of when that happened as they were growing up, going through
Mhm.
school. And I'm like, I love this stuff. I love this stuff. Like if I can use a picture book to lead them to a place of success with respect to the curriculum that I was responsible for, I was doing it. Um, I'm so happy that my former principal brought that up to me because he's like, don't think you need to be something else. Be who you are. Do what works. Those kids still need that part of you. Some of them really need it, some of them don't. But like you said, they'll show you. And guess what? They showed me that they wanted it, that they
Mhm.
were okay with it.
I watch for I watch for compliance versus interactivity, because it's if it's just compliance, I feel like I like to pull that apart a little bit just to see, like, the rule following I get is a useful tool, but I don't want to trade rule following for risk aversion, right? So it's always there's a funny thing there of trying to activate some of their higher powers, to say it's okay to challenge me and say you don't like a thing, but we're not going to stop with the kindergarten version of this, which is just you saying you don't like it. We're going to work on you don't like it. Why is that? And provide me with evidence. So bring them up, and then because I know for them to generalize that outside of my class is more useful than them displaying it to me,
This is
right?
always, yes, I'd like to think that in my teaching career, there's always, no matter what grade I've taught, there's always been that openness to, and I think you and I have talked about this probably in episode 128 or something,
Hmm.
around this business of there are non-negotiables in a classroom. To me, as the teacher, there are some non-negotiables. We're not going to deviate from certain things, and I expect complete compliance for certain things. They're usually around safety. Like if you're going to leave the room, you don't just leave. I need to know
Yeah.
where you're going, and we need to have an agreement, right? So if you yeah, there needs there needs to be like a process in place, and once the process is built, you will see that I will not be in your way, right? If you're being authentic and you're following the process that we created together, we're good to go. But there are
Hmm.
some non-negotiables, and that's where compliance for me kind of begins and ends. Other than that, if you don't like the mathematics we're doing, I would like you to talk to me about that so I can try to adjust and figure out what's not working for you and why, and what I can do to make it work for you. But this business of like, I'm just not doing the math and you don't want to talk about it, that's not going to fly because
Hmm.
I'm your teacher. We're together every single day. How am I supposed to properly and effectively instruct and assess when you're being a stick in the mud because you don't want to talk about it,
Hmm.
right? Um, yeah, 128. I think people look it up. 128 is where I talk
Yeah.
about there are some. There are some. It's not a free for all in my class. There are moments of free for all, but there is a structure built around that. Everybody's supposed to understand how this operates. So when a principal walks in the room, for example, and says to a student, "What are you doing?" You should be able, I believe, working with me, you should be able to articulate what you're doing and how it relates to school, even if that means we're watching a movie, right? Like
Hmm.
you've earned a reward for your behavior or your achievement in mathematics or literacy. Like there should be a connection to school, whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not. I remember that. I remember teaching kids, hey, the principal walks in, they ask you what you're doing. Anybody who walks in says, "What are you doing?" You should be able to answer that question. And if you can't, come and see me. So, some principals liked it when we would put learning goals and success criteria on the whiteboard for the day.
Hmm.
Like, here's the main learning goal today. Here's the main success criteria that's going to help you see if you met the goal or not. Some principals wanted that, and so you do your best to do it, right? Um, but then I argued, okay, so you walk in the room and you say, "What are you doing?" And the kid points to the board, but doesn't have a clue what it really means. Do they
Yeah.
really know what they're doing? And if they don't, then what's stopping them from understanding that? Again, I believe I've been reasonable in my approach to my job. I believe some administrators are not reasonable, and some teachers aren't either. And I'm sure there are times where I haven't been reasonable. But for the most part, I think I'm pretty reasonable. And but I will stick to, I need compliance for certain things, and that's just how I do it. And I'm gonna be that guy that says this is how I've always done it. I'm not gonna change that for certain safety measures and common decency and respect. They also need to know I'm running the show. You guys and gals are not running this classroom. No matter
Hmm.
what you think, you're not running this classroom. I am. That's why they pay me. That's why they call me teacher. So you don't have to like it, but I always say to the kids that would push back on that, I'm like, hey, get through all this school, get your certificate, come on back and work with me. I'm happy to have you run the class when you're a certified teacher. They just laugh. Oh, Mr. C, get out of my face and stop being disrespectful, for goodness sake. I can't stand that. Disrespect just for the sake of it.
For sport.
Yeah, no, go somewhere else and do that.
Yeah,
This isn't
yeah,
the place
yeah,
for that sport.
yeah. Sport. I know that. I've seen that.
I'm sure you have in your roles. Gary says he loves the moments when you're able to ignite a person's curiosity. It
Hmm.
is pretty cool. It's so satisfying to see kids the switch or the light come on, and they're like, "Can I run with this?" I'm like, "Go for it,
So
run."
I have this concept. Gary might like this. So I haven't figured out how to do it exactly, but I'll often bring kind of random things in the class and just leave it around the class. Like I'll just leave it on a table. We have two common tables, just so someone, and there's a couple really good noticers in my class. Like right away, if I adjust something, they walk in the door. It's like boom, Clef. What's this? What is this? What is that? And I just have I could be anywhere. It could be something I bring in from my basement. I just leave it on the desk. I've also joined a pass it on group, a local pass it on group, and they just give away stuff for free. Like it's literally like give it to the next person. And the other day I picked up a this clock, this old timey clock, but it's like it almost feels like it's made out of stone. It's sort of a sculpture, and it has like this really strange. So imagine a clock with this like tree sculpture around it and two wolves howling at the bottom of it. So I have that in the class for Tuesday. I just left it in the middle of the room. Now, who knows? Maybe we'll take it apart. I don't know. Maybe we'll paint it. I don't know what we're gonna do with it. But what I want to do, what it's got me thinking about, and I did this a long time ago, is that I had a what's in the box activity. And way back when, one of my first spec ed placements, it was a box that the student could put their hand in, and on the inside was like a I had like it was kind of like a bag. So when you put your arm in, you actually put your hand in a bag, but you couldn't see inside of it. I could lock the box and I would put things in it. And I'm like, you have to try and guess what it is just by feeling it. And we would have some really cool conversations about what people thought was in the box. And if someone was able to guess, then we would bring it out and we would sort of do other either writing activities or people would volunteer. They want to put stuff in the box. But I think I want to do something like that again. I want to have a it you remember oh, what was that trend? What was the trend of the escape room? But it was basically like a box with all the lock. What was that called?
The breakout
Yeah,
box.
yeah, yeah. I thought maybe I might be able to find one of those lying around, but I would want to have cut a hole in the side so they could actually like interact with it. Breakout EDU. That's what it was. Yeah, Breakout EDU. What happened to Breakout EDU, eh? That kind of disappeared. COVID took that away from us, I guess.
That's a good question because I actually knew one of the co-creators of that.
Yeah.
And I have a breakout box in the basement somewhere,
With all the
uh,
keys?
with everything you needed to make it work. Yeah,
Yeah. Because that's all it was, right? Like you would just stage the clues and you get another key and it would unlock one of the lot. Like that's all basic premise, right?
basically. And yeah, and I remember when this was happening, the
Super
guy,
hot.
the guy I know who was helping, he was literally building these boxes. Like
Yep.
garage was full of wood and
Anybody could, right? You
anybody
honestly
could,
could.
yeah. But
They
their
did have
shtick,
fancy they had fancy some of the fancy locks though, right? The ones that it was like one
yes,
lock and you would get like one hasp, but you would have like four locks on it, or you could put a bunch of different like you could sort of set it up lot of different ways.
yes, and it like you said, it was hot. It was
Whatever
hot.
happened?
Good question.
Breakout
I don't know
EDU.
where
Yeah.
it went or what happened to it. I think
Everybody started to do it like digitally and they thought that was a cool way
yes.
to go, right? Digital breakout. Well, it's not the same.
It's fun. I mean, it was they had lessons, like
It's fun while it lasted.
they built what you and I would call decoded podcasts with all our prongs, you know?
But
Um,
why? You're still on X. Ask the question of all your EDU friends, all those old cronies with the long beards too. Ask them whatever happened to breakout EDU, and you're
I'm
going to get
doing it right.
someone stepping back in and saying it's still around. Just because you don't see it, it's still around. I haven't seen it. I have not seen it. Now I'm not interacting like was it Kim Polishuk? I think she was one of the people that like was pushing that. I don't even know where they are. I don't know. I don't because like I follow like maybe 10 teachers. That's it. Now in all of my social feeds. And they might be more there might be more teachers in the mix, but I follow their non-teaching accounts. So I don't even know, like I have no connection anymore to some of those peeps from back in the day. Some of those peeps that were constantly just like feeding my teacher side. I don't follow any of it anymore.
Um,
That's not a brag, it's just a funny fact as I reflect on it now.
I
Well,
just
it sounds
posted I posted on X and I tagged Breakout EDU.
it's so
So
dissatisfying to say that, isn't it?
what is?
On X, like I've just posted on X, or do you
Oh,
like saying that?
yeah, it's I just
Whatever.
posted on X.
Whatever, Cliff. That reminds me of there's a product that well no, because it yeah. My kids are kind of cracking up right now because um we are the other day a kid's it's actually been after over the last couple of weeks they've started to say not today Clef, not today, like just when I'm too much, not today Clef, not today. And I've accepted that, I've embraced it, but I've told them my answer to it always is I either say depending on when it is in the day it'll be a maybe later or maybe tomorrow. So now what we've decided, and I've started to say it to some parents, and they're like, "Oh my god, my kid would wear that all the time." We're gonna make T-shirts with my face on them on it, and it's gonna say "Not today, Clef." And then on the back, we'll get maybe later, maybe tomorrow, and it'll be we'll see how that works out. I haven't decided how we're gonna do that, but several of the kids are like, "Yeah, let's make that T-shirt. Let's make that T-shirt."
I like it. I like
No,
that.
not today,
Not
Clef.
today, Clough. I like that. I just headed over to Breakout EDU's X page, and the
Is
last
it
time,
hopping?
sorry, it
I no, I said, is it hopping?
well they posted on February 16th. They posted on February 15th. So they posted on February 14th.
Do they have a pinned X?
They do.
Tell me what the pinned
The
is.
pinned X is from October 12th, 2023, and it
Okay,
says
look, man.
Breakout Plus challenges are a unique way for students to enjoy learning while working together.
Hmm.
Students not only have a great time collaborating, but they also love the knowledge gained from the experience. Visit breakoutplus.com to learn more, and then there's like a 35-second video of
Hmm.
kids working on the Breakout Plus.
Enthralled.
32.4K followers they
Mm-hmm.
have. Yeah. Unlock the love of learning with hashtag educational games used by 400,000 plus educators. Get started with a 14-day free trial.
Nope. Not today, Cliff.
Not today, breakout edu.
Not today. Not today.
I don't
And
even
not
know.
tomorrow.
Like I follow some teachers, they pop up in my feed, but
Mhm.
it's not.
You know,
It's
it's just I've just had a natural meander, and I just haven't. Sometimes my meandering doesn't actually expand my stomping ground. My meandering means I climb to a place that I don't want to come back from. And I think that's what's kind of happened with my social media use. My whole like, I'm going to leave when I want to leave. I'm going to arrive when I want to arrive. I don't even question it anymore. If I don't want to be on a platform anymore, I'm gone. I'm done. I actually left Threads for 25 days and came back and just reactivated my account.
Oh, like you turned off the account? You didn't just you didn't just put it down and walk away. You turned it
Yeah,
off.
I deactivated it. Yeah.
Oh shoot. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Maybe not 25, maybe 20 days. It was somewhere in there. Yeah.
Did you
And I'm
get to
like,
keep
yeah,
your number?
yep.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
everything stayed the same because you come in under 30 and it just reactivates your account.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I'm like, I'll go. It was
I didn't
nice.
know that, bro.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just done. And for no reason other than just I'm flexing. I'm like, yeah, whatever. I'm out for a bit. I'm out.
Yeah, I remember the last time you took a vacation on X.
Yeah.
I remember.
Who knows? Maybe I will someday again.
It's just different now. It's all different.
That's what
Whatever.
old people say.
It's
You know,
different.
that
You got to go with your flow. You got to go with your flow. You have to. Um, you grow and develop, and things change, right?
Yep.
Did you draw anything last week, or
Yeah, I did.
can we
I'll
see?
post it up. Yeah, I
Oh,
didn't.
okay. So, it's a cold drink.
Yeah.
That was for season 7, episode 18, number 283. Do you have anything for today? Oh, that's cool. The magnet. I like that. Tina Zeta
Oh,
posted
I
something
love
on
Tina
X the other
Zeta.
day. I know she's great. Like,
She's
and
a
I know,
she's an excellent creative.
and
I like how
I
she
know you're
posts.
buddies with her. Some
Mhm.
in one form or fashion. I know you
Happy
two are.
that I am.
Yeah.
Totally wouldn't care. She feels like an open sharer to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I get that. She
Yeah,
posted something ups. She posted something ups. She
that was
posted
well.
something up, and it activated my creative
Good stuff.
around the decoded podcast drawings
Mhm.
of yours that I have sitting in my basement that I
Mhm.
so badly would like to do something with via video.
Maybe you need the synergy to light it up. So
Well,
follow. You know what I mean?
I responded to her and said, "Hey, thanks. This activated something in me. I haven't acted yet, but something's been activated, so
Hmm.
I'll take that for what it's worth."
Cool.
Anyway, bro, I really appreciate your flexibility again this weekend
Hmm.
with the different time, but I had to do some dad stuff.
It's all good. It's all good.
Any final words before we take off?
No, man. No, I'm gonna go up and do some more chores, run my lines. My show's coming up. Can't believe it. Like in 2 weeks, it opens.
That's wild.
It is mind blowing, eh?
That's wild, yeah.
Yep. And yeah, that's it. I think I might go thrifting today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I like hitting the value village.
Well, enjoy yourself. I hope
Thank you.
you find some treasure there.
I will
Take care
find
of
what
the
I'm looking
family
for.
and the dog and the
Yep.
cat.
Yep.
You're back in the basement, so I'm not going to see the cat
Yeah.
bust through the
No.
outdoor door.
Yeah, that was just kind of handy. The later time means that like I just come down here and work at the PC as opposed to on my laptop. So
I gotta say, before I go, I just noticed the two wicked speakers beside you that are half your size. That's
mhm.
hilarious. Are you blasting your
and the
tunes in the
and the
basement?
old school amp, eh?
I
Like
see
the old
that.
school
Yeah.
receiver, yeah. So I think I told you this story back before Christmas. Friends of ours were clearing out an old apartment.
Hmm.
So we got a new TV for the kids. It's around the corner. And a cool TV stand, like it's this big cabinet, but in the center part of the cabinet, it's an electric fireplace, so it warms their little corner of the basement nicely. Oh, bro. Oh, I thought you froze for a sec.
Did I
I was
freeze?
like, I don't know. I looked over and I was like, damn, we froze in the 11th last minute. So yeah, the big speakers I got, these are like, oh, one of the woofers is broken. I didn't know that.
Oh.
Oh, it's completely dented. That's
Uh-oh.
interesting. Yeah. I never noticed that before, but it makes sense. Anyways, I got this stuff from them. I don't know if I'm going to keep it. It's they are kind of hilarious, and they're heavy as hell. Heavy as hell. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. It's just kind of fun to play. I got a whole other stereo she gave me as well. I have it upstairs in our upstairs office, and it sounds great. Like it's just like a little micro sort of system.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds really good. So yeah, something to play with.
That's cool.
Or I might chuck it out. Who knows? Or I might do it on the Pass It On website. Here you go. Who wants it?
Right.
Yeah, but they are the big gaudy speakers, and it's loud. It actually is really loud. I was playing some 21 Pilots a few weeks back down here, and it just shakes the basement.
That's cool. Lately, I've been using Spotify to listen to 80s music.
Mm.
And every time I come across a song that I remember from a kid or whatever, I hit like. And so I've literally created my own playlist,
Right.
which is friggin' awesome. Anyway, that's my music contribution to today, seeing those Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure speakers behind you.
That's awesome.
That's what they remind me of. Anyway,
Okay.
Rochelle and Gary, thanks for joining us today, and anybody else who was listening, we appreciate it. Thanks for checking us out on this
Thank you.
Saturday morning. This was season 7, episode 19, number 284. Peace, man.
Peace, man. Ciao.